This is Libby Road and the Sound Epistemology Podcast. On this episode of the podcast, we have John from Quality Questions join our SE 101 room on Clubhouse for the first time. John uploads videos of conversations he has using Street Epistemology. One of those videos was reviewed by a panel of SE practitioners, and John shares a little bit about that experience with us. We also had some good feedback and more interesting criticism regarding SE that we were able to address. I hope you enjoy this episode of the Sound Epistemology Podcast and that it benefits you in a positive way. Special thanks to John for being our guest and to Early for facilitating the room. Let's dive in.
So welcome everyone to the Street Epistemology Club, the SE 101 room. This a room created for creating street epistemologists. We are currently going to be taking questions from people in the audience who are interested in learning about street epistemology. And today we have John from Quality Questions here to help answer all your questions. So if you are interested, please feel free to raise your hand to ask your question. We just ask that once your questions have been answered, that you bring yourself back down to the audience so that we can have the next person up on stage. If you'd rather not come on stage, you can also send me a back channel message and I'll ask your question on your behalf if you don't want to come on stage. The back channel message, so it's the little paper airplane in the bottom right hand corner of the app if you're using the phone app on iOS or Android. This room also has been created for as a learning environment, and it is being recorded. John, so if you want to just maybe tell or introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll pass it on to David.
Yeah, awesome. So I got interested in street epistemology more than a year ago. I found Anthony Magnabosco's channel on YouTube, and I started watching a lot of his videos, a lot of his content, and I joined the Discord group, and I just got really involved with it, just trying to absorb. I did so much watching and just getting the method down, and then eventually I got so just invested in it. I just thought it was like a really great method that I decided to go out and do it myself. And so I tried it with I've tried it with a few family members first, just if they had any beliefs, and I tried it in like kind of like a safe little space testing bed, and then eventually once I got comfortable enough with that, I bought a GoPro and went out and started doing like making my own YouTube videos and like trying to just talk to people on the street and I don't know, help random people like critically examine why they believe what they believe. And I thought recording the process would not only as time goes on I get to see how I improved, but if there's any conversation that I have that somebody who watches that video has similar questions, maybe that could help them out. So I don't know, I'm still learning. So a lot of my early videos that I'm making right now probably aren't as good as they could be or as good as they're going to be. So I'm just excited to keep trying and keep working on this process.
No, awesome. That's great. And looking forward to seeing those. David, if you want to go ahead, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks, Early. Hi, everybody. My name's David, and I am a student of street epistemology. I live in Washington State, near the Puget Sound. I run a private Facebook group called Sound Epistemology, in which we discuss street epistemology and all kinds of other cool stuff. I also run the Twitter handle Sound Epistemology and the Chapman Bay YouTube channel. And I am excited to have John here today, mainly because I don't know him very well, and this is going to be a really good way to connect. So I want to thank John for being here today and early for um, being the facilitator and helping us run the room smoothly. Um, so yeah, welcome, John, to our Street Epistemology Club. Um, it doesn't look like we have any questions from the audience yet, but we are taking those. So yeah, feel free to raise your hand and we'll get you up on stage and answer any questions you have. Just wanted to re-mention that. But in the meantime, um, so you mentioned some of your older videos that you've made, and one of those is one that I saw in which uh, some of the more experienced street epistemologists did a review on that video. I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit about that experience, how that all went down, and maybe a couple of things that you learned from that review.
Oh,
That'd be great.
absolutely. Yeah. Um, when I first started, I went out and I started talking to people. Like, whenever I actually got somebody that was willing to have the conversation, I would immediately just dive into the questions. And that was one of the first things that uh, they pointed out. Um, I mean, well, first of all, like, when I got the YouTube channel started and I started like posting some videos, it was a little bit before I reached out to Rom, I think it was, on the Discord, and I like let him know like, hey, I've started this YouTube channel, and he was like super interested, and so he checked it out. And then Reed reached out to me and was like, hey, would you want one of your videos reviewed? And I love constructive criticism. Like, if there's anything that I can improve on or I can do better, I want to know about it. And so when they said, yeah, we will review the video, I immediately was absolutely down for that process. So we all hopped in a call together, started watching it. And yeah, one of the things they pointed out was I immediately started examining the person and examining the belief. I didn't, no rapport. So that's one of the things I've been trying to improve on, is maybe not being so analytical, not being so clinical just at the beginning of the conversation. Just open up, ask a few, just, I don't know, questions like, what are you doing here today? How are you? And that was one of the big takeaways. And I've implemented that so far, and it's been working really well. Just building rapport with the person before you immediately start, getting into the deep questions about what you believe and why. Um, so there was that. Uh, Let me see. Another thing, when, especially in that video in particular that they were talking about, the one we reviewed, the person that I was talking with, I kept laughing a lot, and it was nervous laughter. It's, I think, at first, because my the type of street epistemology that I'm doing, like going out and going to like a public park and asking someone as they're walking by, hey, would you mind stopping to talk? It's the most awkward form of street epistemology. Like, a lot of conversations that you're going to have with street epistemology are going to be, somebody at your workplace believes a thing, and you already know this person that you're working with. You see them at work every day, and so you start maybe asking them some sort of challenging questions about what they believe and why, and you already have this familiarity with them. When you're going out to like a public place and just asking people as they're walking by, hey, would you like to discuss a deeply held belief? That can get pretty awkward. So a lot of my early conversations are just nervous laughter, and uh, trying to ease tension. And I think that was the way I was trying to build rapport. But building rapport by laughing is, it could be seen in a lot of different ways. Like, you don't want the other person to think you're laughing at them. So that was another big critique that I got, and I've tried to take that and implement that as well. Let me see. I'm not really sure. There was another few things that we talked about in that review. When I talk to somebody and I'm talking to them about any particular subject, getting the interlocutor to give you an example of what they talk about and clarify and get definitions of things. The person I was talking with in that video, I forget exactly what the line she said was, but it was, something about having to do with energy, having to do with vibes, having to do with like just sort of like this nebulous idea of energy. And I think so a critique I got was, what is an example of this energy you're talking about? What is an example of, that's how we can find truth, is through energy. And I was questioning the energy, but I think, getting solid examples and definitions and clarifying is a good thing. So yeah, those were just some of the things that happened during the review process. I don't know.
So
Yeah.
some of the feedback you're getting is basically like try not to dive right into the street epistemology part when you're first starting the conversation, that kind of thing, like
Yeah,
that rapport building and just having it be like an organic, natural conversation that starts that kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. We had Dolly on as a guest a few weeks ago, and um, one of the things that he said that was probably the most challenging was reeling in that conversation partner, like just like having starting it, basically having somebody agree to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, yeah,
Is that kind of your experience? And maybe you can tell us some of the top challenges that you face when you're out there.
Real
yeah.
quick, John, before you get started,
Hmm.
just want to remind the audience that we are in the Q&A session. So if you have any questions, comments, feel free to raise your hands and we'll bring you on stage. Or you can also send me a back channel message and I'll ask the question on your behalf. So yeah, I want to just welcome everyone to the room. Go ahead, John. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. Some of the challenges that I face as far as getting an interlocutor, finding somebody to talk to. Yeah, it's definitely again with my the way that I find somebody to talk to is going out in public and just asking somebody as they walk by, "Hey, would you mind having a short conversation? Like, just mind having a short interview?" A lot of the people that I ask that question, I think they think that I'm trying to sell them something. There's a lot of people that I ask the question and I get completely ignored. Like, they don't even acknowledge that I exist. They just keep walking, which that's fine. If you don't want to have the conversation that badly, like, it's okay. Uh, so yeah, people don't stop to talk. Sometimes I'll ask and they'll just give a polite, no, no thanks, not interested. Um, I've had people where I ask them for the conversation and they say, yeah, yeah, we can talk. And then I explain what I'm doing, like street epistemology, and then they get maybe intimidated by the word epistemology, or intimidated by the explanation. And so once they hear what the conversation might be about, even though they get to pick the topic, delving into a belief like that, they're like, no, that's too much. I can't handle that. So they, say they don't want to talk. Finding somebody to actually have the conversation um, can be a bit challenging, but once you find that person that's willing to have the talk, it can go really great places, and it can really, like, help them explore why they believe what they believe and find the reasons.
Cool. Yeah, thanks. You mentioned before that you basically started out and like tested it out with like family and friends, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I was wondering, how did that go? Like, because it's it just seems like a different type of conversation than, you would have with a stranger at the park or whatever, right? Like, there's all this stuff that you're bringing that they already know, and you already have this relationship established.
Hmm.
I was wondering how that went for you. Like, um, did yeah, maybe you just talk about how that all went down. Because I'd be interested to hearing your experience about using SE with family, especially when you're first starting
Hmm.
out.
Yeah.
You're not really up to speed as far maybe necessarily like with rapport building or checking in or consent and that kind of thing. So I was wondering, if you could maybe share your experience with SE with family.
Yeah. Well, I think that was one of the major challenges, like when you're starting out and you don't have a lot of experience, you run into roadblocks in the conversation where you don't know how to proceed, and that's what happened with when I tried to talk with my mom, because my mom, she raised me in like a Jehovah's Witness household when I was young. Eventually, this is kind of like a bit of personal family stuff, but when she had my sister, uh, she, she had my sister out of wedlock, and the Jehovah's Witnesses, I guess I'm not, disfellowshipped. So my mother disfellowshipped my mother. So we were still religious, but we weren't actively going to the Kingdom Hall to do that sort of thing. So uh, I knew my mother was religious. I never really participated too much in that. I tried to not, but as I'm getting older now, I knew that she was somebody I could probably reach out to if she still holds some of those beliefs. I could try to, I don't know, deconstruct them or break that, like maybe not deconstruct, but like use street epistemology to help explore them. So I called my mom, and I mean, we talk all the time, but this was, I think, the first time in a long time we had talked about her beliefs and things like that. Um, Oddly enough, when I called her, the thing that we settled on wasn't like her belief in God or like the Jehovah's Witness side of things. It was her belief in ghosts and how she's had supernatural ghostly experiences in the past. Um, she talks all the time about when she was younger that she was like her and her family were all sitting on the couch, sitting in the living room, just hanging out. And her brother and a friend walked in the room, walked in the house, like they opened the front door. And as her brother and his friend were walking through the living room to go back to, a different part of the house, something on one of the shelves in the living room, she claims, flew across the room and like hit the wall, fell to the floor. And she claims it was a poltergeist or some sort of entity that when her brother entered the house threw something at him. That was like a really interesting thing that I didn't really even know how to explore, because if she has examples like that, there's no way we can go back in time and examine what happened. So I asked questions like, is it possible that maybe somebody bumped the wall and the knickknack or whatever fell to the floor and just rolled, and maybe you're maybe possibly misremembering what happened? And she was like, no, there's no way I could possibly be misremembering what happened. No, the thing flew across the room and it was a poltergeist. And so when you have somebody that is so staunch and adamant in that belief, how do you begin to break that down? I think like the common phrase that's used in the community is doxastically closed, like closed-minded. There's no way that she could possibly be wrong. It's those kinds of interlocutors that are hard to get to. And I was just starting out. She was one of the first people I was trying to do street epistemology with. So that my first encounter with somebody who claimed to be 100% and there's no way they could possibly be wrong, that was tough. I think a good way to try to explore that now, I haven't talked to my mom about that belief since then, but I think a good way to explore that would be, could somebody be convinced of something 100%? Could they be convinced it was true but still be wrong? And I would try to go from there, now that I have a little bit more experience. Yeah.
Wow. I think that we could probably have a room just on that.
Right?
And I definitely want to get back to that. But it looks like we have Brian up on stage. Welcome to the stage, Brian. Yeah. And maybe we can come back to that in a second. Is that cool?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Welcome, Brian. Did you have a question or comment?
Hey, thanks. Yeah. I was going to take a different direction, so I didn't know if you wanted to limit it to, along the lines of what Quality was discussing, or can I kind of start a different thread?
I'm comfortable with you. If you have any question, it doesn't have to be what I was talking about.
Okay. Okay. So, um, I just want to make sure I understand street epistemology. So that's essentially, based on what I've seen from the videos, using that, what is it, Bogassian's book, How to Create a manual for creating atheists, right? Is that kind of a way to interact with people and establish rapport and understand their beliefs and the strength of those beliefs, and just, I guess, making sure that they are confident for the right reasons and using logic and evidence and those kind of things in their faith, and just kind of challenging that. Is that somewhat accurate?
I mean, I would say, yeah, that's a pretty good description. As far as like Peter Boghossian, like he wrote a manual for creating atheists, and he introduced the concept of street epistemology. Um, I think with the community and with Anthony in particular, the method has evolved and the method has been refined into, I don't know if it's exactly what Peter was describing in his book, but I mean it's, yeah, definitely similar, but just you know uh, gently, politely establishing rapport, and then yeah, digging into why they believe what they believe. Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so I've been a non-theist skeptic for many, many years, and I used to do this in my teens. I would actively seek believers, regardless of where I was, the context, just out of curiosity to kind of challenge my own beliefs and find out where I was going wrong and strengthen my own arguments and all of that. And I stopped doing it in my early 20s because, long story short, I was successful. And so I found that I could challenge people's beliefs, and they were flimsy, they weren't coherent, they weren't consistent, and they were using improper definitions, improper terms, and like I said, contradictory premises. So so then, after a couple of times of just seeing in their eyes, well, you're right. Why do I believe what I believe? And then the next step was, so what else is there? And the reason I'm getting to this line of questioning is, it seems to pursue the goal of creating atheists, which on some levels I'm an advocate for, but I think that you can't just stop with pulling the rug out of people's logic and beliefs. There has to be a follow up with here's an alternative, or here's the better way to think, et cetera. Because for the most part, theists are moral realists, right? They believe that moral truths, moral absolutes exist because of the revealed word of God. And whether it's, Muslims, Jews, Christians, whatever, right? They hold that these moral truths are revealed from God. And so it's in my opinion, relatively easy to debunk that. And you could say, you could get them to acknowledge that it's subjective and et cetera. So using this method, I think, is useful, but what next? And so I think at some level it does kind of a disservice in that you just kind of cut their knees off and then walk away. So am I missing
Right.
something?
I would say just a little bit. Street epistemology is, for as far as I do it, it's not telling people what to think, but trying to help them with how to think, and trying to get them to critically examine and understand why we believe. And so if they have reasons that, let me put it this way. The I don't want to tell them what to believe, but usually try to help them to understand that to believe something, we need evidence, or maybe you don't need it, but any good belief, anything that's true, is going to have something sort of evidentiary behind it. There's going to be substance, I guess. So if we talk about that, is there any evidence for their belief in God? And if not, what is there evidence for? So maybe instead of, just, pulling the rug out from underneath them, saying, look at the evidence and then base your beliefs upon that. Let's find out what the evidence is and what it leads to. So there are still things to believe, maybe not what they were believing previously, but evidence could lead to different beliefs.
Yeah, I fully agree with that, and I think we are in agreement with that. The distinction I would make is
Okay.
that when you get on Clubhouse or some venue where people willingly and knowingly go into rooms that are titled Debate a Theist or Ask a Muslim or something like that, they are inviting that discussion. They are open to either convince you or be convinced. And so
Mm,
that is a voluntary exchange, right? But in terms of going out and seeking, let's just say, unsuspecting people off the street, you
mm-hmm.
are in some ways ambushing them. And so even if you're successful, well, especially when you're successful, you are in an uninvited way challenging and, let's just say, removing the foundation by which they establish their moral framework, their set of beliefs. And I just think there's an unethical piece to that, because they didn't ask you for it. The people on Clubhouse are asking for that to either be convinced or convince you. But when you approach random people on the street, they did not ask you for it. And so without that piece of saying, here's, a better way, or here's, something to replace that theistic worldview, there's an incompleteness there that I'm uncomfortable with.
Okay. Yeah, no, I completely understand that. That's I think maybe sort of a common criticism of street epistemology, where uh, yeah, you're finding people who maybe aren't willing or ready to challenge their beliefs in such a way. You're finding them and just, yeah. I think I get what you're saying. So that's there's a couple of things on that. That's why I always, whenever I have a conversation with anybody, I do try to get consent, one, for the conversation. If I'm filming, get consent to record. Is maybe the problem you're having, like even if we get the consent for the conversation, is maybe it's not informed consent. Like they don't know what this conversation is about to entail. So
Yeah, they don't know what
possibly,
they don't know. So
okay.
you are challenging them to, let's say, defend their beliefs or engage in a discussion. And then from the videos I've seen, it is somewhat deceptive in that, well, I'm not going to tell you what I believe. Let's just go on with the discussion, and then I'll answer your question. So again,
Hmm.
there's I don't want to be accusatory because again, I'm
No,
kind
yeah.
of on your side, but I'm just wondering about the, you know, the benefit,
Hmm.
the end result. Let's just say you're completely successful. You're
Hmm.
100% successful in this exchange, and
Hmm.
you convince someone that maybe I don't know what maybe I'm not sure in my beliefs. Maybe I am not
Hmm.
grounding this in, ontological certitude or metaphysical realities or whatever, so now I'm crushed, and you may never see that
Hmm.
person again. And yeah, it's kind
Hmm.
of contingent upon that person going out and discovering and exploring and all that, but you don't know if that's going to happen or not. So I mean, I'm a
Hmm.
scientist, and so we do informed consents. We do the whole, validation of the experimental design to make sure that we aren't causing undue psychological stress or harm. And I just think this is similar in that you're putting people at risk, cognitively and emotionally and spiritually, and you're not closing the loop.
Okay. Um, hmm.
I mean,
The people that
am I missing something? Am I wrong in
so
my presuppositions?
well, the people that we talk to, I mean, they hold a belief. I don't think it's I don't think it's fair. Like if actually, I'm kind of at a loss for words because I don't think it's unethical to I the word you used there was like we're making them defend their beliefs. I don't think it's an attack that they have to defend. I think it's a gentle questioning of why do you believe it? And they can, it's just a gentle conversation. It's not, uh, I don't think, whenever I walk up or whenever I start talking to somebody, I don't expect to change their entire worldview in that one conversation. But like you were saying, worst case scenario, let's say, well, worst case, but like, let's say I do have a conversation with somebody and my questions lead them to questioning their entire worldview. Uh, I I always try to offer, here's my contact information. If this is something that you weren't expecting to happen, reach out to me again. And there are resources out there for people. Like if somehow I mentally break them, I don't think I've ever had that happen, but
Well, that's the thing. You
they're,
don't know.
yeah,
You don't know
I
a
guess
day
so.
later, a
Yeah.
week later, a month later, if they're just shaken to their philosophical or spiritual core because you don't close the loop. So I guess an alternative would be to say, look, please go on this app or go to our website or something, and let's continue the discussion. And I think you're saying that you give that as an offering. I would just hope, and perhaps urge, that that is a contingent part of the process.
So there are some street epistemologists who, at the beginning of a conversation, I know Anthony used to do it when he was like out doing this stuff, where he would put a disclaimer, this may, like, you may be less confident in the belief by the end of the conversation. If we put that sort of disclaimer and we actively work toward informed consent, like this might, change your entire worldview, would it then be ethical?
Yeah, I think it needs to be clearly stated and understood up front. I am going to ask you about your religious beliefs, and I may, and let's just say my clearly stated goal is to get you to challenge your own beliefs and question your own beliefs. And if they survive your own scrutiny and my interrogation, if you will, or this interaction, then good. You've strengthened your beliefs. But if the alternative happens and I am effective in challenging and perhaps breaking, your worldview, then what? So I don't want it to be deceptive, covert. I don't want it, I mean, what I want
Yeah,
doesn't really matter,
absolutely.
but
Well,
you get my point.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Informed consent is definitely something I strive for. I mean, I don't want to hurt anybody with what I'm doing. There are some conversations though where when you're especially talking to somebody, just walking down the street and you stop them and ask them for a conversation. There are definitely conversations that I've had where uh, I talked to a woman who she believed in God, and God was one of the things that helped her through the death of a child. Like her daughter, I think it was, got sick when she was really young. Her daughter died, and she would not have made it through. She would not have been able to emotionally cope with life without a belief in an afterlife, without a belief in God. There are conversations like that where I don't feel comfortable. Like even if her belief in a God is not true, I don't feel comfortable trying to expose that in that moment. That's not for me. That's for maybe a therapist and for, a more conversations than we could have just, sitting there on a sidewalk talking about things. So there are definitely conversations where if I think it's going to be psychologically damaging to the person that I'm having the conversation with, I just politely, like, at that point in the conversation, we hadn't even gotten really into the God belief. We got into she was holding on to the belief because of the death of her daughter. And I said, okay, well, that's awesome. This is street epistemology. This is what I'm doing, but have a nice day. Like, and it was nice talking to you. And I just let the conversation go.
Yeah, I think that's a great example of what I'm saying, and I think I hope we're coming to some agreement here,
Hmm.
because if that's your fear, my next point would be that may happen after you leave
Right.
with
Okay.
other discussions. So I think I've made my point. You get my point.
Well, right. Um, I'm just wondering, like, if somebody were to come to these conclusions, like, or if, like, let's say I wasn't the street epistemologist, like, maybe somebody through their own thought processes was able to come to the conclusion on their own that the God didn't exist. Um, and could somebody psychologically damage themselves to the point where, I don't know, like people could come to these conclusions on their own? I think the street epistemologist is more of like a guide through the conversation. And is it unethical for us to be a guide through a conversation?
Right. So in that example, and that's a great clarification, the difference is you are seeking them out. So if you were to sit out on a street corner and you were to have, a sign that says, "This is street epistemology. We are going to, help you to validate or challenge your beliefs. Come talk to us." Right? Then it's voluntary and they seek you out. But when you stop people randomly on the street, and then you're not completely upfront about what you're doing and what your intents are, and where it may lead, there is some level of deception there. So,
Hmm.
not deception, I don't want to go that
Well,
far, but you know
yeah,
there is
I
some
get you.
hidden component to where it may go.
Hmm. So yeah, I think informed consent is probably the best way to combat that, and also, I have a card that has my contact information on it. So if anybody does need to reach out, like I always give that at the end of every conversation. But
So should it
I
come
think,
at the beginning of the conversation?
ooh, well, possibly. I mean, before they leave, I always give it, and I've never had somebody leave without me being able to give it to them first. So um, I'm not sure. Maybe possibly, yeah, I could. But I think another thing, as far as me not revealing my position on a topic before we have the conversation, I don't want to, like, because hypothetically, if I'm talking with a Christian and before we even have the conversation, I say that I'm an atheist, I think there are preconceptions about what atheists are, what they believe. I don't want to color the conversation with what their preconceptions about me, and I don't want to have any preconceptions about them. So I think it's good to remain neutral until the end of the conversation, when then I would be more than happy to like reveal what my position is. I don't
Yeah.
think that's a deceptive part.
No, I agree with that. I think that's completely beside my pushback on this.
Okay, yeah.
Um, I mean, I understand the whole notion as a scientist. I'm not wanting to bias, the variables and the introduce confounds into the observations that I'm, setting up experimentally. And you're kind of looking to do the same thing. You don't want to confound or contaminate the discussion with these, preconceived notions of, epistemology and religion, metaphysics, and all that stuff. But
Hmm.
on the other hand, like I said, I would just feel much more comfortable as a practice when you guys talk about this stuff. Um, just say, look, we want people to come to us knowing what they're getting into, because then they're prepared psychologically to either walk away if it gets uncomfortable, or follow up if and when they are shook, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a valid criticism, and I agree.
This is great.
Thank you. I
Um,
appreciate it.
I, I'm glad you came up to the stage, Brian. This has been a good kind of discussion here. And you bring some very valid, like John was saying, some very valid criticisms, and it's these criticisms come up a lot in these rooms. Um, and I think that the main or the key component here is what John was saying about informed consent. Uh, if you don't have consent, you're not doing SE. If you're not trying to build rapport and maintain rapport, you're not doing SE. And it, what was really interesting was something that you said, that you stopped because it was successful. I thought that kind of struck me for a second, because that's a really interesting viewpoint. Like, you stop because it's working. Um, so I just want to share that was interesting. But I also wanted to share that other than consent, um, some of the points that you're bringing up they have to do with, ethics. And I'm not sure if you're aware, there is a street epistemology course being developed right now. Uh, should be out soon. Um, and there is a specific module on the ethics of street epistemology. So I would invite you to maybe check that out once it comes out, because I think that would help explain a lot of those. But yeah, it's crucial to have that informed consent before you begin the conversation. And part of the beginning of an SE conversation is explaining to your conversation partner what street epistemology is. So um, and also, they don't necessarily have to be about religion or God beliefs. You can have SE conversations about vaccines or, um, you know, any conversation that you want to get more understanding about. And maybe instead of looking at it like you're cutting their legs off, if their legs are cut off, that's up to them to do on their own. And like you said, um, a lot of this understanding about themselves and about their own conclusions and how reliable the ways they are using to get those conclusions happen in between the conversations. And I think that a successful street epistemology conversation is when they are willing to have another one sometime. And so, what I try to do is I try to set up a situation where they want to talk again, so that we can kind of continue that and maybe go a little bit deeper. So I really appreciate you coming up on the stage. Like I said, you bring a lot of really good, valid points. Um, and I want to give you the chance to follow up on that if you'd like, or if you have any other questions that you want to get addressed. I know that we may have a couple in the queue, but I just appreciate you being here, and we do this every Saturday afternoon.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll just wrap it up here, just 30 seconds. So I love the Socratic method, which is or having a dialogue, establishing rapport. I think it's much more constructive with people I disagree with, either politically or theistically, if you will, economically, whatever, to establish rapport, because that's a much better way of finding common ground and things we can agree on and shared values and all that stuff. The one distinction I would make is that people don't ground their morality in economics or politics or vaccines. Religion is a unique animal in that um, people ground their entire existence in their religious beliefs. And so I have no problem challenging, vaccine topics or economics or politics or, whatever. But religion just has a unique place in terms of the vast majority of humans grounding their ethics in their religious or non-religious beliefs. So that seems to me to be a unique animal. But I appreciate it. I'll let someone else talk. Thank y'all.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks again. Yeah, it is interesting. I actually had a conversation about this with another SE practitioner, and I was basically asking them what is more dangerous, or yeah, what's more dangerous, theism or vaccine hesitancy, you know? And we kind of had to think about it because, yeah, of course, right now being in a pandemic, vaccine hesitancy is kind of a main topic right now. But what drives people more away from having an accurate map of reality? Is it vaccine hesitancy, or is it religion or theism? So yeah, it's an interesting conversation, definitely, and I think street epistemology helps us have those conversations in a more productive way. So I would invite you to check out that course once it comes out, and specifically in that ethics module. Pretty excited about that coming out as well.
I have a quick comment on this as well. I so yeah, so like David said, we have heard this before in regards to the approach. When a person is either asked or they approach an SE practitioner, the, the the only thing that I can think of is that from my experience, from what I've seen online, especially with Anthony Magnavasco, often it is people that are approaching him, and there's also a very clear explanation as to what's being done. And some people decline, other people accept. Um, I haven't gotten that part about the ambush. Um, and I don't know if that has to do with the way we're communicating how it is practice versus what I have observed actually being done. But uh, I guess maybe that's another conversation, right? But from what I've seen so far, people are the ones that approach, and there'll be some people that have already heard this before, or Anthony will ask the question like, will explain to them what it is that they're doing. Um, and I have also found in my personal life that the word atheism has gotten just a whole nother meaning. So when John mentioned that he doesn't want to color the conversation, I kind of agree. Sometimes starting the conversation with "I'm atheist" some people just take that just somewhere completely different than what atheism actually is. And I have found that if I am not ready to give an explanation as to what atheism is, you may in fact be miscommunicating to simply say I'm atheist. It may be miscommunication because people's idea of what atheism is just something completely different. Um, and so I'd rather not even mention it, so to not confuse anyone. Yeah. So, David, I have a back channel message. Quality, if you want to react to that, and then or John, and then I'll read the back channel messages.
Sorry, it was about the as far as like atheism, like not immediately like letting people know that you're an atheist. Like I I don't, yeah, like as far as like street epistemology goes, like we were saying, like the conversation topic could be anything. When it does like tend towards religion, yeah, I try to keep it as neutral as possible. And I think that's if you can get to the end of the conversation and the interlocutor doesn't know your position, you've done your job correctly. It's not about what I believe. It's not an argument. It's not me presenting you with facts to prove that you're wrong. It's just about, what do you believe? Why do you believe it? Can we explore the reasons why you believe it and critically think about it? And it's really, the conversation is focused on the interlocutor and what they believe. So I try to inject a minimal amount, hopefully none at all, of like my opinions and thoughts on the subject until the end of the conversation. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So, hi, Ali. I'm gonna read a couple of messages in the back channel, and then I'll pass the mic on to you. The first thing I got here was more of a comment. Let me see. The user, unfortunately, he's not in the audience anymore. But it was a response to the title of the room. And he said, when arguing doesn't work, stop, listen, understand the intention, trigger some emotions, empathize by revealing a bit about yourself, listen more, achieve understanding. The argument ends. I'm reading this verbatim here, okay? So
Yeah,
the argument, yeah,
that's good advice. That sounds like street epistemology, most of that from what I heard.
right. The argument ends. Argument begins with one side hastily disagreeing. With an open mind, you would just have conversations. And yeah, you either educate someone or learn something. I think he might have been reacting to something that was said. Um, and then the person, I guess this is more of, I think he was sharing his thoughts with me more than he was asking a question. But I think he echoed, earlier you had mentioned something about laughing. And yeah, laughing can be misinterpreted. Emotion expressed could be just you being yourself or your subconscious self, but to the opposite person, it can be an insult, triggering some kind of insecurity depending upon their conscious or subconscious self, and also the context of your speech. Understanding the context of speech helps you understand the emotions they exhibit, thereby helps you connect with them in a deeper way. So that was his first comment. I think this is actually from there was a person in the audience named God of Mischief, and that's where that came from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there was actually a question from the back channel. The person is asking. They went to your YouTube channel, John.
Mm-hmm.
Quality question, which is pinned above.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the question was, I saw his video about karma and how it works. I'm interested to know what his findings were. So you have a video, I guess, on your channel about karma.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's one. It was a early conversation I had with this girl about. I mean, she believed that karma was real. It was happening. I mean, it's been a while since I've had that conversation, but it was pretty much, she believed that ultimately, if you do good things, will come back around to you. If you do bad things will come back around to you. But in the course of that conversation, I asked, is it possible for somebody to do bad things, but then they still get good things happening to them? And she agreed with that. She said, yeah, I've had some friends that were not good people. They were bad people, but, they never really seemed to get any repercussions as far as that. And so then the conversation was getting into, if you can be not a good person but not get any repercussions, is karma still happening? What is working differently for them with karma rather than you? And so we were in the middle of getting to something deeper, and then she had to go and we had to end the conversation. But as as far as with that video, what my findings were, I didn't get to dig deep enough, but from like a cursory look at it, I didn't see that karma, I wasn't convinced that karma was real and happening.
Thank you. So that's been my final thoughts over the conversations on karma, actually. So that's good. Ali, if you want to go ahead and ask your question or your comment.
Yeah, thank you. I don't know, it's a question or feedback. In this SE, several rooms that I'm listening and I'm participating and somehow I'm talking. And again, I'm hearing something strange that uh, because when we don't have a clarification about what is the definition of SE and what is the purpose, that's the challenge. When Quality mentioned that we explore understanding the belief system of the people, we help to understand how it works. That's the danger. That's the issue. The existence of the belief system is the problem. It looks like I mentioned one time that you are rationalizing the belief system, and that's the very challenging call. It is very important that you if we accept your definition, it is like that you're helping people to rationalize something that there exists no process to achieve it. It is very dangerous. It looks like you are rationalizing religion. Somehow, because of that, I'm saying that what is the purpose of SE? It looks like that you are helping people as a kind of disadvantage to go deeper and deeper in something that there is no proof. They cannot say there is no process, there is no scientific procedure to achieve that. And you're helping them to, or somehow convince them that it is true or it is wrong. When it is the matter of, I think that the topic is much more deeper, that somehow why you are not starting a dialogue to disprove the existence of the belief. Somehow I think it would be much more practical and helpful for the society. On the other, I mean, otherwise, if you want to help people to say that, for example, oh, you believe to God, so let's have a tight dialogue, and so after the end of the day, you see that both of all of the people in the society say that, oh, so God exists because of our conversation, and we are happy. I think the bad message is that you're rationalizing the belief system, and because the belief system, after that, we will have a morality, and we will have the notion of good and bad. If you are inside of the circle, you are good, and outside is bad. So if you help them, you, not you, as a kind of this community helps people that, okay, the belief system is good. We are trying to understanding with each other. It is dangerous. And it looks like you are rationalizing violence against the people that they disagree with the belief system of some people. Somehow I'm repeating in the previous session of the room that I think the SE, if you look at the title of your room, even now, it's kind of doesn't work. Why you're worried about that doesn't work? Why all the time you should have some kind of 100% that you reach to some kind of destiny or some purpose. Because of that, and I think 1 month ago in this room, I mentioned that for me, I'm hearing people that they are professional in SE. It looks like a kind of cult, C-U-L-T, and it is dangerous. It looks like kind of another type of religion, because of course, why it is dangerous? Because I mentioned that you're applying some kind of pseudo logic as a kind of reasoning, some kind of rationality, having dialogue, making conversation. It's very nice, very sexy, but what is the achievement? You want to say that belief system, the existence of the belief system is okay and good. And I think that's the problem of SE. And yeah, thank you.
So I just want to make sure I understand. So you're saying that somebody could have a belief system, and that belief system tells them what is good, what is bad, and that belief system gives them morals, it gives them purpose, and us challenging that is not a good thing?
And the opposite way, if you're challenging them in the way that the existence of the belief system is somehow issue, is the main issue, that's okay. But the time that you're challenging them to help them to re-understanding their belief, that's the point. I'm saying that why you are not starting the
Okay.
dialogue to say that the belief system, the existence of this proposition is wrong, is bad, but you are helping them to go
Mm,
deeper and deeper in their belief
mm.
system in the rational way. And that's the
Okay.
challenge. That's the problem.
Okay. So, um, hmm. if the street epistemologist, like if we're like sort of a guide deeper into their belief, but we're helping them rationalize their belief, what would happen if we were talking with someone and at a certain point digging into their belief, we reached something irrational? Like if we were talking to them and both me and the person I'm talking to, we dig deep enough that we find something irrational. And then what would happen then? Is that a bad
And
thing
then,
to help them
okay,
yeah.
and then you want to go, okay, you reach to some kind of irrationality, and after that, okay, you want to clarify, modify this irrationality. Who did put you in charge to correct people? Because when you start a conversation, for example, you start a conversation with me, we are talking about something about my belief system, and at the end of the day, I realized that, oh yeah, you're right, at this step I cannot give you any reason. Okay, so now we have a vacuum. Why do you want to fill this vacuum? Who did give you the permission to fill it? And that's the point. That's the point. It is not a matter of rationality and reach to some kind of irrationality. Because I'm saying that the time that you respect
Mm-hmm.
the existence of the belief system, that's the first issue. Since you accept it as a SE movement, people respect to the existence of the belief system. I'm saying that that's the problem. The time that you're starting a dialogue in terms of accepting the existence of the belief system as a good sense, as a kind of positive, that's the wrong procedure. I'm saying that.
Hmm. Let me see. So, accepting that they have a belief system in the first place is a bad thing? I'm sorry. I'm trying to
I'm
understand.
saying
I'm
that
sorry if I'm not.
accepting the existence of the belief system as a good concept, as a positive concept, because
Okay.
you want to make a dialogue. All the
Right.
time you are saying that respectful dialogue. What is the definition of respectful dialogue? So it means that you need a moral system. You need a morality to define respectful dialogue. Do I have a respectful dialogue to you now? Who
Hmm.
knows? I have one morality system, you have another morality, so we should find some kind of overlap. If
Right.
you go to the common society, the average people, I don't want to give a percent, they believe to
Mm-hmm.
something. Even some people, some scientists, they believe to science, and it is wrong. They see science as a kind of another type of religion. Even in mathematics, we had this problem. For 2,000 years, they were thinking that Euclidean geometry is the only concept and geometry on this in geometry in mathematics we have, and we can solve everything. So that was a challenge even in the science. I'm saying that the average people, they have some beliefs. So therefore, the average respectful communication means that you accept the existence of belief system as a good
Oh,
sense. I'm
okay.
saying that,
Okay.
yeah, when you accept this one as an inception of your dialogue, okay, it looks like you're starting in the wrong place, and after that you get some result. At the end of the day, probably after some dialogue, you can convince the people that, oh, the God that you defined it in this way, it is wrong. Probably it doesn't exist, or probably you should define it in other way. I'm saying that, okay, you reach to this step. My problem is that you want to replace some axioms of the belief system of the people with something else,
Hmm.
because you somehow in your inside, in your mind, you accepted the platform, the belief system, as a kind of fundamental platform for the human beings communications. I'm saying that the existence of having this platform is wrong, and you're persisting to say that no, it exists and we fix it, we modify it, we can modify it, we can people to modify that platform. I'm saying that why do people need that platform? Probably it is good idea, and as SE started to have a dialogue. So human beings, they
Okay.
don't need any belief system.
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna repeat back what I think I hear you saying, and I think I got it, but correct me if I'm wrong. So people come into the conversation with a belief system. They have their own morals and all, and we we use that as a starting point. Like that I think that's what you mean by like as a platform. When they come into the with a belief system, those morals we use as a platform to have a cordial dialogue, but we shouldn't acknowledge those morals in the first place because
Somehow,
they're
more or less, yeah. When you're acknowledging, it means that because you want to continue the dialogue. That's the
okay.
point. Yeah.
So acknowledging that they have morals in the first place acknowledges that their belief system is true.
Acknowledging, I'm not saying that acknowledging the belief, accepting as a positive sense, accepting that,
Okay.
okay, you believe to something, oh, it is good, it is not bad. So let us have a dialogue, communication to
Hmm.
understand deeper the belief. But you don't
Hmm.
try, or not you as a people in SE, they don't
Hmm.
try as a kind of removing that belief system, not modifying, re-understand it and modify it.
We try to remove the belief system, not just modify it.
First of all, no, I shouldn't say that we
Oh.
try to remove. I'm saying that convincing, as having dialogue with some people, convincing people that the human
Hmm.
beings, they don't need belief system as a platform to define the philosophy of their life. Probably having conversation in this region would be much more practical to help me or help other people that, for example, I have a definition for God. Ali, let us have a dialogue and say that, okay, your definition of God is good or bad. I'm saying that probably we can help each other to say that, Ali, or equality. We don't need this platform. We can have a much more practical life independent of the existence of this platform. Accepting, acknowledging the existence of this platform as a positive, as a good sense, I think it is wrong.
Hmm.
What I'm hearing is that we're contributing to the problem of people having faulty belief systems by having street epistemology conversations. Is that, would that be
Yeah,
accurate?
somehow, yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just making sure I was understanding. Like you're basically saying that we're contributing to the problem of faulty
Exactly. Yeah,
belief
yeah,
systems
yeah,
by having
conversations that allow
Conversation.
somebody to better understand their belief system.
Yeah, exactly. You're helping a better understanding. Because of that, I'm saying that. What is the definition of what is the purpose of the SE? SE is a field of what? What is the definition? The first important topic. I think SE, the next previous session of the room, I addressed that because Scully here is one of the listeners. He has a room in the understanding social life, human beings' life, community in the context of logic, the context of mathematical setting. With morality, we have ethic. When you have some concept in the society and we want to understand it, how's that work? I'm saying that somehow accepting belief system doesn't work. To have a kind of practical communication or dialogue with common people. Somehow it is better to go in the conversation much more deeper and understanding the society, understanding the communication in the society in the context of, for example, logic in mathematics. Somehow has some purpose that mathematics can help. Not, I'm addressing again, rationalizing belief system is very dangerous. Somehow you are doing something like that. But if
Yeah.
you go deeper and define SE independent of any moral system, when you are saying that respectful dialogue, define it. What does it mean? You need morality. You need moral system. And that's the point. That's the point. That's the problem. And the next step of the dialogue is that finding overlap between my morality and your morality. It looks like we are continuing as kind of conversation with the wrong basement.
Yeah, you're basically saying, I think that um, by accepting the fact that they have this belief system and allowing them to explore it, that is helping them better rationalize their belief system that is possibly faulty, right?
Yeah, not possible
Okay.
for me 100%.
Okay, gotcha. So if it turned out that it's not the goal to help people continue to believe things that are likely not true, would that how would that help things?
Yeah, it is good. But do you do something like that? People in SE. And I'm
Yeah,
talking to you, David.
yeah,
Are you
yeah,
a
yeah, yeah.
religious person? Are you a religious person?
No, but I would also say that my goal is not to help people continue to believe things that are
I'm
likely
saying
not
that
true.
the inception of the dialogue. I'm talking about
Hmm.
the average people, you, me, people in this room, in the society, my country, your country, average people, they have some belief system. Even
Right,
the people that they are acting in the SE. So that's
right.
the point. I should remove when I'm talking in SE in the very concrete concept. I should remove my belief system and enter to the dialogue with somebody. Is that possible for you?
I think
Definitely, your answer should be no. But if
I
you go
think it is
deeper,
possible. I think it is
no,
possible,
we
yes.
are human beings. We are human beings. At
Yeah.
the some level, you can somehow theoretical science can help us. For example, mathematics can help me. It is independent of any moral
Yeah.
system. Because of that,
Yeah.
I'm saying that if you want to understand having practical benefit in making dialogue with the people, first of all, you should define SE. And for defining SE, you should go deeper, not in terms of the language, in terms of the logic. You should understand or logic in the sense of the society, people. And after that, build a dialogue in the context of that logical setting. And it works. Otherwise, it is just a matter of having conversation and making dialogue between two common people. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, you rationalize my belief system, I rationalize your belief system, and we will be happy and probably doing something together. But It doesn't work.
Yeah,
And
yeah, and you're saying that could galvanize
exactly.
their belief system. Yeah. So, before I know that we have some other people that want to come up, and I really appreciate you coming back to the room and sharing your thoughts on the stage. I was wondering, um, to wrap it up, maybe maybe you can give us the proper definition of what it should be.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Well, I have something. I was thinking about this story about
Cool.
what is the definition, and I have something. But the problem is that when I give it you the definition, you want to evaluate my definition, and this is the matter of evaluating definition in terms of in the context of English language.
Right, right, right,
That's
right.
the problem. That's the
Yeah.
problem. Because when you are talking, I'm saying that belief system, because this, I put it as a kind of some, of course, I think Scully disagree with me, or I don't know, probably he agrees with me. I'm put some kind of I see some kind of singularity in these concepts, in these words. Somehow we need word. We need this kind of perturbation around the word to interpret it, to describe the word as a kind of what. For me, each word is a singularity in the language. And we need a statement. We need some word as a kind of clarification or understanding about
Right.
something. Belief is
Yeah.
one of them, is one of them. And
Right. Yeah,
for that one,
I'm trying to use the word
all the
belief
time I'm
less and
hearing in this
less
room,
and use it
I,
more of like a conscious assumption or a conclusion that you think
yeah,
is likely the case instead of using belief just because of what you're saying about language and how it can be misinterpreted, and that kind of thing. So,
yeah. Just
maybe
I want to say
maybe
that. Just excuse me.
yeah,
Just I want to say that all the
sure.
time in this 15 minute, half an hour in this session, a previous session, people in SE start to talk that we want to explore belief system of the people. And what does it mean? Why do you need this one? It looks like you have nothing to do and just want to explore people's belief system. It looks like it's very strange. Why do
Yeah.
you care about the belief system? Are you a person that this community want to clarify, put some kind of, put some kind of some holy concept, and you want to translate it to the society, and so you have some definition, some purpose for the society, for common people, and say that, oh, that's good. Because of that, we want to be all of you happy, respect to each other. This looks like Jesus Christ,
Hmm.
something like that. Well, why do you need?
Yeah, like a
That's the
almost like
matter.
a
You should
Pollyannish
clarify.
view.
Because of that, I'm saying that when I give you my
Hmm.
definition, the situation is that since I don't know, do you have any purpose? Do you need any purpose? If you ask me, I'm a mathematician. Is there any specific purpose in mathematics? My answer is no. Mathematics is a creativity, but engineering is a purpose. There is a purpose, and you want to build something. Okay, discovery is the matter of physics, chemistry, but mathematics is the matter of creativity. Somehow we have some applications. But I am a type of mathematician. Of course, I'm searching at the application of mathematics in quantum physics. But I am a type of mathematician that I don't care that when I publish a paper, how many people can understand it or cite it. Because this is the matter of our creativity. For me, is an orgasm for brain. I like it. And when
Yeah.
some people judge it as a referee, as a reviewer, it means that it is correct. Okay, that's good. It looks like orgasm for brain for me. That's good. Probably next 15 years, next century, people they find some application. So
Yeah.
do you define SE in this way? Orgasm for your brain or no?
So,
Mm.
Okay.
real quick, I just want to say, like, the reason why I would like to have these conversations with people, the reason I go out and I practice street epistemology is the beliefs inform actions. If somebody believes something, like, and they believe it strong enough, they might act on it. And that could be they vote in a certain way, like if they believe that in building a wall between America and the or excuse me, the United States and Mexico. If they believe in building that wall, they might vote for a candidate that's going to do something like that. And so beliefs can be harmful if, people act on those beliefs. And it could be, I don't know, not necessarily the one I just mentioned, but there could be things that are harmful if you believe them. And so I want to help people understand why they believe what they believe and make sure that they're believing for good reasons. That's the reason I do it. It's not, and
Why you don't add it that probably talk to them that you don't need to have any belief? Why you don't go this way?
to,
Probably it's a kind of third movement. Talk to people, community. Of course, I'm not sure. Probably you're a believer. You're a religious person. You're saying that, Ali, no, in my mind, having belief system is very good. What's a strange word that you are saying? Because of that, I'm saying that. What is the purpose of SE? It is independent of human beings as a kind of, as I give example in mathematics. Do you need moral system for to define SE? I'm hearing you need, because you are saying that having respectful conversation, talking about the belief system, it
oh,
means that you
okay.
need morality. And that's the matter. That's the issue and challenge for
Mm.
understanding SE.
So if there could be a moral system that was independent of a belief system, like if, I
Do
don't know, I
we
think of
have?
having a
We
moral,
don't need it. I'm saying that we don't need it. In mathematics, we don't need any moral system. We don't need a
okay,
moral
so,
system. Okay, why do you
sh
need moral system?
well, that's,
For example, go to the scientists.
mhm,
Even scientists, go to chemistry,
mhm,
physics. Do you think they needed morality? Of course, when we are submitting a paper, articles,
okay,
we are human beings. People interact with each other. So, as a matter of human
mhm,
beings, we have challenge all the time as the evaluation of the scientific
yeah,
results. I'm not
street,
talking about this level. I'm talking about
so,
the pure science. Somehow
yeah,
we don't need in science is independent of any moral system.
mhm. So yeah, no, street epistemology is based on like the Socratic method. It's based on philosophy, and for us to have philosophy, us to have ethics, like ethics would not exist independently of humans. Well, I mean, it might, like if animals were sentient and animals had ethics, maybe, but I'm just saying like you need living beings for there to be some sort of ethical system. It's about, yeah, morality is dependent on humans. So street epistemology, I would say, would be dependent on there being other humans. We, yeah, we would not have street epistemology if we didn't have people with beliefs to examine. So they would not exist. Like math and science do not need a moral system to be math and science. Street epistemology, you need morality. You need to be able to discuss morality to have street epistemology.
So the bad message is that you are a cult, CULT. It is very dangerous. You're a type of religion because you need
Hmm.
morality.
I,
You are another type of religion.
I,
You are new. You need the new prophet as a kind of church of Satan, something like that.
I
You should
don't,
go that level. Probably you are
I,
not ritual style religion. You are not.
I
You
don't,
don't have any ritual, but you are a religion.
I
Not
don't
you.
think
I'm
I
saying
would.
that your movement.
Well,
If we accept
right,
this
street
definition that
epistemology.
we get,
So no, I
if
don't think. Morality and needing morality for. Okay, so let me philosophy. If somebody examines philosophy, and there's a group of people that like to get together and discuss philosophy, are they a cult?
uh, now you're talking about, you mentioned the SE and philosophy, and you put it this way. First of all, I disagree. You should explain deeper, and
Okay.
don't use philosophy as a word to say something good about the SE. SE
Okay.
probably had some interaction with philosophy, but you didn't
Mm-hmm,
prove or explain to us here that what is the interaction between SE and philosophy.
well,
When you're talking
epistemology
about
is.
the belief system of the when you're talking about the talking exploring belief system of the people, imagine
Mm-hmm,
I'm a person in religion A, you are a person in religion B. Each
mm-hmm,
religion has its philosophy, and we have two different philosophies. So now you want
mm-hmm,
to find some kind of interrelationship bridge between two philosophies. So you need a morality to make a dialogue between this philosophy. It means that you need a third philosophy, because you need an interaction between two different philosophy.
mm-hmm.
Philosophy A
So
comes from my religion. Philosophy B comes from
okay.
your religion. And making
Hmm.
dialogue needs a third philosophy. So
I'm
you need an interaction between them.
okay.
So all
I
the
I
time you are, yeah, I'm saying that it is explained. I don't see any interaction between SE and more. SE looks like using language is very sexy way to continue as kind of dialogue between people in very first layer of the communication of the people. You claim something deep, SE claims something deep, but I think it doesn't do something like that.
I'm gonna interrupt real quick
yeah.
before you respond, John, then I'll give you the last word. Yeah, so we have some other folks that want to come up. So we could talk about this
Yeah,
all day
thank you
long.
for the time that you gave me.
Absolutely, yeah. And if you want to stick around and if we have time to dive into this again, you're welcome to stick around and come back. So yeah, I appreciate you being here. So yeah, go ahead,
Mhm.
John, and then we'll move to the next person.
Okay. Yeah, just real quickly, I would want to say that epistemology and even talking about like ethics, the ethics of street epistemology, that those are all like philosophy terms. So I think we need philosophy to exist and the ethics to exist to even have street epistemology. So people getting around to talk about philosophy and the ethics of, discussing beliefs, I think that's a philosophy based discussion. And I think street epistemology is philosophy. So I don't know. I would say that 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 needs humans to exist. Math and science don't need humans to exist. But yeah, okay. Sorry, we can move
I
on.
have a I have a quick reaction as well. I've had this
Yeah.
conversation with Ali as well, and I think part of his objection, and I do want Ali. We can come back to this, Ali and David. So I don't want to speak and not give Ali a chance to respond. We can totally come back. But his thing is that we don't. Why are we trying to be nice when we talk to people about their beliefs? Why is it necessary to put this like moral, sprinkle morality over this SE thing of being, oh, let's build rapport, let's be nice? Why is that in an endeavor to find truth or science, we have to include morality things in it as part of that endeavor, right? And so
Okay.
when you're teaching mathematics, when you're teaching science, you don't you don't get into like being nice or whatever. And so my response to this is that this is actually n- n- it's an interesting to me. It's mostly an interesting observation because even my math teacher, they actually have a way of teaching you, right? They don't just yell at students or hit them with a stick in the hands when they got a question wrong. There is a rapport that you have to build with the students in order to keep them perceptive, in order to keep them engaged in the conversation. I had a critical thinking class in college also, and just the teacher is not just yelling or cussing because because the rule or the guideline is that there's no morality here. We're gonna teach critical thinking. We're gonna teach mathematics. So this whole thing about nice is out, it's out of context here. No, that's actually not how real world and how many other contexts actually evolve. And I would argue that in a lot of contexts, when people get into arguments and conversations, things end up not getting anywhere because of that lack of consideration in how the conversations are being had, what tone you're picking up on. And the fact that you're introducing or making people aware of how you are engaging this conversation is a good thing. And it's something that I would even argue that we're copying of how things are done in a classroom, right? So this sprinkle of morality, what I'm calling it, right? I'm calling that what Ali is saying. This is done in many other contexts, especially in schools when you're teaching things like critical thinking. Uh, Teachers have to kind of adopt a way of conducing themselves, a way of talking to their students, so that I guess I'm going to say just things go well. So that's my initial reaction to the adjustment. I don't think there's anything new about SE trying to do this. I don't think this is. We see that in many other contexts, in my opinion. Um, I want to welcome
Mm.
Yvonne
Hi,
to the
Yvonne.
stage. Oh, Yvonne,
Welcome,
if you have a
Yvonne.
question, or
Hi,
comment,
hi. I just thank you for allowing me to come into the room. Fascinating discussion, complicated discussion. So when I look at when the gentleman was talking about street epistemology, he's talking about it from a Socratic standpoint. The whole notion of being for street epistemology is looking to have these conversations for understanding. And so it allows the opportunity for difference. But when you talk about sort of like a morality to it, it's that respect that enters into the conversation. So there is an accountability in that discussion. I believe someone said it doesn't have to necessarily be moral. When you talk about epistemology, there is something called moral epistemology, and then that does relate to the beliefs, truths, justifications. It's the study of knowledge, but there are categories of uh, epistemology and in its application. And so when I'm listening, that's what I'm kind of pulling out of the discussion. And usually, this type of street epistemology, it comes from people having deeply held beliefs, but the key is the application of it that allows for the discussion to continue. And so that's where I think that we come into a space where could you have a discussion like this without morality? Yeah, you could have a moral relativist discussion, but even at the crux of it, you're still caring about understanding where other people are coming from, because at the beginning of the topic of the discussion is when arguing doesn't work, it's because no one is applying, based on this discussion, that application of SE is not being applied. When it applies, it can work, but there's a sacrifice in the discussion. And so that's what I was gathering in the initial discussion. The other thing is, I was looking at how, when you look at epistemology, you can't get away from without talking about ontology as well, which is another aspect of the discussion, because these are all philosophical constructs that we're talking about, and these philosophical constructs are based in Western philosophy. It'd be interesting to look at it from a standpoint from the East in terms of where these definitions begin, end, and change. Because if you look at the word epistemology, it comes from a Greek term, which is knowledge, and then logos, which is reason. So those are definitely originating in Western thought. So if we were to apply a different approach, would it have a different meaning? Finally, I would say that in regards to epistemology, epistemology is not necessarily science. It could be divine revelation. I think the gentleman, Ali, brought that up to some degree. It's experiential. So it's a posteriori as it is a priori. And it also deals with logic and reasoning. So it's a fascinating discussion, but SE seems to have, some sort of empathetic underpinnings that I'm getting in the discussion to attempt to understand. And I hope I'm making sense. I'm just trying to build on what everybody's saying and reacting to it. So hopefully I can contribute more to the conversation. Thank you. I'll land my plane at the moment.
No, I agree with a lot of what you said, and I like a lot of what you said. Yeah, street epistemology is, I mean, there are different ways to know things. Yeah, like through experiences and observations, and I don't know, like if you have a personal experience, like that's definitely going to shape the way you shape how you know what you know. Yeah, sorry, I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss for words, but I agree with a lot of what.
Yeah, a couple of things that I heard that resonated with me was being having that empathetic aspect to it. I
Yeah,
I don't think that you can I don't think you can have a productive street epistemology conversation without empathy and without compassion. I think it's probably one of the most the compassionate ways to engage in a conversation with somebody about, you know, sensitive topics. So yeah, that resonated with me. Just real quick, we're gonna end the room in about 25 minutes, so just wanted to put that out there. I know that we've got some other folks that want to ask some more questions, so I really appreciate everybody being in here today. Thanks, Yvonne, for coming up on the stage. Did you have any last thoughts that you wanted to share before we move on?
The only thing that I will say is that living in this technocracy that we exist in social media, street epistemology is a very hard construct for its full application because we have yelling, screaming, cursing, cancel culture and things of that nature. So it would require almost, it would seem as though there's a set of rules that we would have to, and I hate the word rules in this discussion, that we would have to, individually apply to ourselves. Like in this conversation, we are applying SE. We're waiting to understand. We've had back and forth, but in an actual world application for this, to what degree does SE really can play in a world that is volatile in its context of where we are today?
That's a great question. There are examples, lots of examples on YouTube of street epistemology conversations that I would invite you to watch if you haven't already. That might give some insight on how it can work in the real world. I would say that you don't necessarily have to engage in a formal um, formal version of street epistemology. I generally find myself using it, in all kinds of conversations that happen organically in the real world at the grocery store, you know, in the taxi cab or whatever. It doesn't have to be formal in the way that you may see it online. So yeah, did you want to add anything to that, John?
I mean, what you said about like the world is, I mean, pretty volatile, and this is like a nice, calm way to have a conversation. Yeah, and we're using it right now, waiting to understand. Yeah, it's that I think is one of the key aspects about street epistemology and like having these conversations is to be calm and collected and try to bridge a gap between you and whoever you're talking to. And that's, I think, one of the best methods for getting to that understanding is listening, observing, absorbing, and then remaining calm. Like there are times where you could be having this conversation, and if they say something you disagree with, it's easy to get upset about what they just said if it's something, egregious, but remaining calm and yeah, level-headed in that situation and then just repeating it back and exploring why they believe it. Yeah. That's the way to be.
Cool. All right, who's next? We've got about 20 more minutes, so we're going to try to get through everyone here.
Yeah, so we got James, then Mike, and then Nathan Jitsu. So yeah, welcome James to the stage. If you want to have a question or comment, go ahead.
Yeah, I just have a comment. Thanks for bringing me up and allowing me to participate in this conversation. And once again, it's awesome to hear discussion about SE. And I don't know, I came in kind of late. I don't know if you guys prefaced that the best way to use SE to avoid any over talking and, like Yvonne was saying, yelling and screaming and emotions getting over, is the best, most productive way is one-on-one. Did you guys share that?
I don't think that has come up. You're talking about like it's best it's a the better environment is to just have a one-on-one conversation between two people, right? Is that kind of what?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Well, that we kind of do that here in this room
Right.
for that reason. Instead of everybody yelling at each other at once, we just have somebody that wants to come up and maybe ask a question or have a comment. I mean, people are welcome to go and get their own room and yell at each other all they want. But yeah, I think that's demonstrated by this format, to be honest with you.
Good, good. Well, that's an important part of it that it's one on one. And another thing is, I heard someone say, I think it was Ali saying that SE makes claims. I'm curious as to why someone would think SE makes a claim when the use of SE is just to come to understanding, and it's by far a cult. I really find it hard to consider those who practice SE, a group of individuals, be considered a cult. I really find it interesting.
Well, maybe you and Ali can be in a room together and hash that out and let us know. Let us know what you come up with.
Right on.
Yeah, let's set that up to I would love to be a part of that audience.
It sounds like a good claim to open up and explore.
Yeah, I'll help moderate.
All right. So thank you, James.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yeah, pleasure.
Thanks
I'm
for
gonna go ahead and
joining
end
our
the
room
room.
today, James. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hey, Mike.
Hey.
Hey, Mike.
How are you?
What's up?
Good. I like what Ollie was saying. I didn't understand fully all of it, what it is, but it is a cult. Or I guess it can be. Excuse me for the background noise. It's my air fryer. Um,
Hmm.
Quality gave like what I considered a BS response. You said you use
Okay.
street epistemology to talk about people because you think beliefs basically determine actions, right? And then you use the
Well,
example of
no,
a wall, but you said that that wasn't an example of a harmful
no.
action, right?
I mean, I think beliefs, if
Is that what
you
you
believe
said?
something,
Is that what you said?
I'm not, I mean, okay, real quick. I think a belief that we should build a wall between two countries, a physical barrier, I think that might be a harmful belief. Yeah.
Okay, and so when you say that you approach people with the SE
hmm
approach, you're doing so because you want to basically what?
I would like to explore people's beliefs and have them critically examine them.
For
If I, so if
so I
somebody
like
believes,
I like walls. I like walls.
okay, okay,
Now
all
what?
right.
Like
We,
is like would you approach me and you want to examine my belief when I just told you what it was, or you want to know why?
well, I would like to talk to you about it, and we could like critically examine why you would want the wall. I'm not going to bring my preconceptions about it into the conversation. I would like to remain neutral, even if I personally
Then why
disagree
would
with
you?
you.
Then why would you even speak about the beliefs and the action thing when that's not even relevant? Why even
So,
talk about that? If you're just curious about somebody's belief, why even be concerned about their actions?
because beliefs can lead to actions. So, if you believe
I agree
in a
with you.
harmful
They
thing,
can.
right,
And then you use
right,
something that you felt was potentially a harmful belief. And you want to examine that,
hmm
right? You want to examine the harmful, potentially harmful belief of someone, right?
yeah, it could also
Okay.
be a helpful belief. Like, we don't have to
You are,
always examine harmful
you,
things.
you already determined it harmful. So why do you want to examine it?
Mhm. Because if somebody, oh, so let's say somebody believes something that I disagree with, I can try
Okay.
to question them about it, gently challenge them on it, and push back and like see if we have any commonalities, if we do believe certain things in common, or if it's, I don't know. I mean, there's like a lot
Great.
of
No, that's
ways
perfect.
to, yeah,
So
yeah.
you're not neutral then. You're
So,
not, you just said a second ago you were neutral. You're not neutral because you just said right now something that conflicted with what you said before. And when earlier you were talking about teachers, you kind of drove the point home. Nobody here is a
In
teacher. Well, if you
in
go
the
up and you
in
talk to, if you go up, 1 second, please. If you go up and you
Yeah.
talk to somebody on the street about their belief,
Mhm.
you are not a teacher. So I do agree. If you are a teacher, yeah, you probably want to do your best to accommodate as many people as possible. And that probably happens from not being argumentative, which is another thing. When we talk
Mhm.
about when arguing doesn't work, are we assuming that arguing is an approach like, hey, you know what? My approach could be calm, or I'm going to go argue with that person. Is that what we're saying? Like argument is like a dichotomy of something. There's either arguing or there's street epistemology. What do you mean arguing doesn't work?
So
I made the title for that room, by the way.
Fair enough. Anybody can answer
Wasn't
that.
John.
sorry, I mean, I want to give everybody the opportunity to respond and stuff, but arguing is, I think the word arguing in itself means I don't know, and maybe not
Philosophically, it's
necessarily.
non-confrontational, right?
Yeah,
It's a
okay.
non-confrontational. Okay,
It
so
it could be
I know we're not
non-confrontational.
saying that. It's a non-confrontational claim statement or premise, right? That's because arguing in like a colloquial sense is like confrontational, right? And so like that does happen. That's usually a response. Okay. And some people might do that. You have people that don't get along with each other and that doesn't give a fuck about the relationship. So they go out there and they're responding to something that happened and they just want to let their point be heard. And therefore they don't
Hmm.
care about the argument. So that's not a teacher. That's sorry, early, that doesn't work. Teachers don't do that. But what I'm saying is this, the reason why I do agree that it is a cult is because you yourself, and let's put it this way, if street epistemology is a screwdriver, the screwdriver in itself is benign. But if I want to use a screwdriver to unscrew somebody's, let's just say, building,
Hmm.
now I'm going to say you're using the tool in a way where it's kind of like, hey, you're deciding what you think the case is, and you're going to go undo their foundation, and vice versa.
Hmm.
So the tool in itself
No.
is not, no, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. No, okay. I think this might be where the disconnect is. So if I talk to somebody who likes, who
Sorry.
likes building walls, yeah, if I talk to somebody who likes building walls and they think there's a good reason why there should be a wall between the United States and Mexico, and I talk to them and they actually hold good reasons, like they have good reasons for that, they could sway me. Like they could, I mean, and even then, I'm trying to be a neutral party to explore their belief. But if their belief is something that is epistemologically sound, then maybe they do have a good belief. I'm not trying to. I don't always go out with a goal to immediately dismantle every belief I encounter. Like if they believe
But you
something
do
that's true,
sometimes. And you just said right now that if somebody presents to you a goal that you find good, then okay. Like, so
if they,
ultimately it's not neutral is my point. And that's what can make it a cult. I'm not saying that it is a cult, but if you go out there with an objective to make the world a better place because X is bad and I'm going to examine people's belief to blow, well, how is that different than people holding up picket signs to say, hey, whatever they want to say? You're
so
not street epistemology, so I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you in itself, based off of what you said, can at least resemble cult-like actions based off of your belief.
So you're objecting to maybe the sort of activism part of it, where we go out and we discuss with people, like
I'm just
we.
saying, bro, you're no different than anybody else that wants to spread an agenda based off of what they think
Hmm,
is good, even if you do it 1 out of 10
do,
times.
okay, so I will agree with you that I think it is good to critically examine ideas, and I go out with that goal, but that's my only goal, to critically examine people's beliefs. Like, and I think that's a good thing, to critically examine things. I'll agree with you.
Perfect.
I have that assumption.
And you're not neutral, at least some of the time,
Hmm.
right? Right?
I if
Right?
how
Right?
how are we defining neutral?
However you used it earlier. You said you'd like to be neutral.
Okay.
Now we're playing word games.
Okay. So no,
I'm just
no.
saying,
Well, I
at
think.
least some of the time, not all the time,
Mhm.
at least some of the time, the minority of the time, I'll even give you that, it's not
Hmm.
neutral, right? Right?
My goal is to critically examine people's beliefs, and I think if you think that motive is not neutral, then no, I'm not neutral.
When I'm not really affected. I guess I proved my point. Thank you very much, you guys.
Yeah, no problem.
You were breaking up there right at the end. Um, yeah, thanks, Mike. Always interesting to have you in the room. Um, Welcome back. Let's try to get one more, and then we're gonna start wrapping it up. So yeah, welcome to the stage, Nathan.
Hey everyone, thanks. I actually just stumbled upon this room. I actually and checked out the I guess rules, the guidelines, and I just saw it and said, "Wow, that's really fucking interesting. Like that would really facilitate a lot of conversations. I think that's great." And then I was listening, and I just didn't understand the aggression that was coming out towards this kind of way of doing things. To me, I just see it as a tool that reduces friction for two people who are actively seeking truth. So like if like once you are realizing that you both want to just be more just inclined or oriented toward truth, toward the truly understanding reality, rather than being right, then you can get into a conversation and you could say, "Oh, how interesting your beliefs are. I hadn't thought about it that way. Actually, you might have even convinced me to go to your side." Or maybe in this case, I made you realize through my explanation of my own beliefs that I have the more comprehensive perspective on this issue. So everyone's benefiting from it. But if you don't choose to engage with those kinds of rules or the conduct, then it's so easy to trigger and let like kind of social or power dynamics just kind of derail the conversation from the ultimate goal, which in this case is like truth, epistemology. Like, how do we get there? Like, um, so yeah, it was just very self-evident why we needed something like street epistemology when people are just going to bulldoze other people and not even bother to check that they've understood properly what the other person is saying, and just make accusations and like rude comments based on what they're thinking that that person is saying. And then when you're being attacked constantly, you're on edge. You're less likely to be able to think, uh, you know, correctly, at least, or like more like logically, and articulate what it is that you're trying to convey. So I think that's why something like this is really important. Um, and I appreciate you all sharing and letting me come up here. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Quick reaction. I want to echo what Nathan said. Um, I've been in Clubhouse for about 6 months now, and I've had a lot of great conversations, a lot of philosophers, and a lot of very knowledgeable people that I've had interactions with, a lot of religious people as well. And in some of these conversations, though I have not been necessarily engaged in doing SE specifically, I can say that I have had conversations with people on both sides where I think we had a productive conversation and it had nothing to do with me convincing them of one point or the other. There's a gentleman on here that comes on called Biscuit. He comes here often. And he's an example of someone that I had a conversation with about his views on the world and religion. And the conversation I had with him had nothing to do with me convincing him or not. It was just a conversation about epistemology, how he came to believe, why he believes. Nothing to do with dunking on him or uh, countering his arguments. It was just learning about how he came to be where he's at. What are the pillars that are holding up and propping up his beliefs? And I very productive conversation. And the guy's actually himself religious, identifies opposite of what I am. I don't, I, and I'm still having a very hard time understanding specifically the arguments from Ali and Mike. Some of the things that they raise is, I mean, to be honest, I'm a bit confused, very confused, and very rare does that happen so far for me, but it's very confused about the objections that they bring up. Just being honest.
Can I say something about his objections real quick?
Sure.
Um, so he came at it from I checked his profile and he said he was PhD in mathematics, and he kept reverting back to this idea of like, if you are oriented towards mathematics, then you don't need morality. I think that's I wish he was here to kind of back that up, but I think that's what he was saying.
That's right.
And I just I kind of, it triggered me for sure, and I tried to examine it, but I just feel like he's missing something. Maybe fundamentally, like all complex human or existential behavior of systems like can be modeled like accurately down to the what we're going to do next, but like humans are inherently like chaotic. Nature is chaotic, and from the chaos, the convergence of chaos and order, like sprouts life, and it's a beautiful and often surprising thing. And so when we cut ourselves off from that surprise, even the potential of that surprise, like it's such a, we become cynical and kind of miserable, and we maybe bully people because then we only see power as a thing, as a result, rather than collaboration and truth. And it seems like something like street epistemology is about collaboration and getting there together rather than competing to be the top. Thanks. And one more thing is that I think Mike, it was maybe his name, he said this is exhibiting cult-like behavior, but you know so do sports teams. Like people, that sports inspire fanaticism. Any people can latch onto any structure with rules and say, oh, you're not following the rules to this, and then it's again that competition rather than that collaboration. So yeah, just some thoughts that were stirred up. Thank you so much for letting me be up on stage.
Absolutely. Yeah. We have this room every Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. That's 8 p.m. GMT, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, everybody, welcome to come back next week. If we didn't get to you today, yeah, please come back next week and hopefully we can address your question or comment. I think Clubhouse, I think you can find a lot of examples in Clubhouse on why we need more more methods like street epistemology. And I just want to thank John for being here today. It was great. It was great to meet you for the first time. I hope that we can maybe get together and maybe work together on stuff in the future. It's been a pleasure having you here in our room today. You're welcome to come back, join the panel, and help answer questions anytime you'd like. Just wanted to also thank Early for your efforts in helping keeping the room running smoothly. I really appreciate you and everything that you do here. And I just want to thank everybody in the audience, everybody who participated. Thanks so much for being here. Any last thoughts that you folks want to share before we end the room?
I was just gonna say I enjoyed being here. Usually I'm busy on Saturdays, so I mean I might be a little bit before I'm back, but this was an awesome experience. Like I liked talking with everybody. Again, the like Early was saying, the criticisms that I mean, I think the first guy we talked to, I forget his name, but he made some, I guess, pretty good points about the ethicality of dismantling somebody's belief. I mean, yeah, they should be fully informed about what is going to happen in the conversation. I'm not that great at street epistemology, so like sometimes if I have a conversation with somebody, I don't even know if I'm likely to convince them or dismantle their belief in such a way that it's going to be psychologically harming. I don't even know if I could do that. So, but yeah, there was a lot of really good talking points and a lot of good conversation. I enjoyed it.
The only thing I want to share, it's more highlighting what I said earlier. I think for me, I am interested in learning SE. My main interest in SE is really the discipline of knowing what questions to ask. to get to the bottom of things. And this has nothing to do with atheism or beliefs, religion, or anything. It's just the idea of having the ability to kind of get down to the core of things. Or it's more about critical thinking for me. I've joined the room to facilitate, running the room, but I definitely appreciate Street Epistemology for those reasons. I also want to say that a big part of this is that the conversations I've had the pleasure of having in the SE have been about exploring beliefs, but never telling people how to think or what to do with their lives. There's nothing coming from me to that person to do that. And again, I want to highlight there have been very positive conversations with people that think opposite of me that have landed in not me convincing them that they're wrong or anything. So it's more about understanding how their beliefs are made or why they believe what they believe. And at the end, I had a better understanding of why they believed. I noticed that they seemed like they had good epistemological reasons for that. But it never became into earliest directing the other person on how to think or how to live a moral life or who to believe or what to believe. It never really gets into manipulating people or anything of the sort. It's just an exploration. So to me, that's what I see have been for me as well. Lastly, I want to highlight. I had the pleasure of sharing the stage with Yvonne a few months ago. I just want to thank her for sharing the stage. Very, very knowledgeable and a lot of information you have to share. And I want to thank her again for joining the stage. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks to everybody that participated. Yeah, hopefully we'll see everybody here next week, if not before. And again, if anybody is able to stick around and help us stack chairs, that would be great. We've got I think a dance recital happening in our room later. So yeah, if anybody wants to help clean up, that would be great. Thanks everybody. We'll see you next week.
Later.
And there you have it. If you enjoyed this episode of the podcast and want to join the conversation or just listen in, you can find us in the Street Epistemology Club on the Clubhouse app, Saturday afternoon starting at 1 p.m. Pacific Time. Until next time, keep asking questions.